Good morning, children. Today we are going to read the second chapter of our textbook Flamingo, and the name of the chapter is Lost Spring. The chapter is about two children, Sahib and Mukesh. Sahib is a rag picker and Mukesh is a bangle maker. So the chapter is basically about the problem of child labor in our country. How the children suffer in our country because of the menace of child labor, that we are going to learn in this chapter. The title of the chapter Lost Spring is very much appropriate in dealing with the theme. Spring means childhood. Spring means the duration of childhood in our life. And as these children who are forced to work during their childhood to earn a living, they are deprived of their childhood, so they do not enjoy their childhood at all. So it would be appropriate to say that they lost their childhood. So the name of the chapter is Lost Spring, Lost Childhood. So let's start with the first part of the story. It's about Sahib, who is a rag picker. "Why do you do this?" I asked Sahib, whom I encounter every morning, scrounging for gold in the garbage dumps of my neighborhood. Sahib left his home long ago. Set amidst the green fields of Dhaka, his home is not even a distant memory. There were many storms that swept away their fields and homes, his mother tells him. That's why they left looking for gold in the big city where he now lives. "I have nothing else to do," he mutters, looking away. "Go to school," I say glibly, realizing immediately how hollow the advice must sound. So in the first paragraph, we come to know that Sahib and his family have migrated from Dhaka, Bangladesh to India. They have settled at the outskirts of New Delhi, and there they live in a slum called Simapuri. So about this place we are going to read in the coming chapters. So here in the first paragraph we come to know that they left their home and fields in Dhaka, and the reason is that every year their fields and homes were swept away by furious storms that left nothing with them to eat. So they were dying there of hunger, so they thought of leaving their fields and homes, and they settled near Delhi in a place called Simapuri. So in the exam a question comes, why these people, why Sahib and his family shifted or migrated to Simapuri from Dhaka, why they left their village in Dhaka. So you will write that every year their fields and homes were swept away by the storms, and because of which they were left with nothing to eat, so they thought of migrating to a place where there were no storms. So now when Sahib and his family have shifted to Delhi, they all have taken up the profession of rag picking. And Sahib comes to the neighborhood garbage dumps of the writer every day to pick rags from there to sell the rags later on to make a living. So the writer has been observing him coming to his neighborhood garbage dump every day. So one day she thought of talking to Sahib. So she goes and asks him, "Why do you do this? Why do you do rag picking?" And Sahib is a bit grown up, so he feels embarrassed to say that he is poor and he has to do this work to earn a living for himself. So he is very much embarrassed to say that, so he says, "I have nothing else to do, so I do this work." So the writer also, without thinking much, makes a suggestion that why don't you go to school? Glibly means not thinking very much before saying it, something that just comes to your mind and you just say it without pondering much on it. So she says, "Why don't you go to school?" So again, Sahib doesn't want to tell the truth that he is very poor, he cannot afford going to school. So he says, there is no school in my neighborhood. When they build one, I will go. So he says, there is no school in my neighborhood. When a school is built in my neighborhood, I'll definitely start going to the school. So the writer just half jokingly says, if I start a school, then what? Will you join my school? And the boy, giving a broad smile, says, yes, definitely. He would love to come to her school. And a few days, this conversation gets over here, and a few days later, the child comes running to the writer and he poses a question. Is your school ready? So then the writer feels embarrassed. He made a promise that she didn't mean to fulfill. So she feels quite embarrassed that she once promised to him that she is going to start a school. So she tries to cover up by saying that it takes longer to build a school. So my school is still under construction, she says. And later on, when she's talking to us, she says, but promises like mine abound in every corner of his bleak world. Now let's look at this paragraph. After months of knowing him, I ask him his name, Sahib-e-Alam, he announces. He does not know what it means. If he knew its meaning, Lord of the universe, he would have a hard time believing it. Unaware of what his name represents, he roams the streets with his friends, an army of barefoot boys who appear like the morning birds and disappear at noon. Over the months, I have come to recognize each of them. From this paragraph, an important question comes in the exam. What is ironical about the name of Sahib? So Sahib's full name is Sahib-e-Alam. Sahib-e-Alam means Lord of the Universe. So somebody who has the name Sahib-e-Alam must be a rich person with many servants at his beck and call. But this poor Sahib is himself a rag picker. So his name is very much ironical. So that's why the writer says that if he comes to know the meaning of his name, he would have a hard time believing it. So the writer observes Sahib and his friends coming to his neighborhood garbage dump every day in the morning like birds and disappearing by noon. So birds come in the morning and by the time it is noon it becomes hot, so they disappear. So in the same way, these army of barefoot boys, this army of rag pickers, they come in the morning to the neighborhood garbage dump of the writer and disappears by the time it is noon. And the writer has known them over the months, and so she recognizes each one of them. So once again a conversation is given, and this time it is between the writer and the group of rag picking boys. Why aren't you wearing chappals? I ask one. My mother did not bring them down from the shelf. He answers simply. Even if she did, he will throw them off, adds another who is wearing shoes that do not match. When I comment on it, he shuffles his feet and says nothing. I want shoes, says a third boy who has never owned a pair all his life. Traveling across the country, I have seen children walking barefoot. In cities, on village roads, it is not lack of money, but a tradition to stay barefoot is one explanation. I wonder if this is only an excuse to explain away a perpetual state of poverty. So the writer strikes a conversation with the group of rag pickers and she asks one, why aren't you wearing chappals? The boy is not wearing chappals because he doesn't have any. He is too poor to afford a pair of chappals. But he is too embarrassed to tell that to the writer, so he cooks up an excuse. He says, "My mother did not bring them down from the shelf. My mother has kept my chappals on the topmost shelf of the almirah and she doesn't bring them down. I can't reach to that shelf, so I'm not able to wear chappals." And a friend of his tries to help him further by saying that even if the mother brings down the chappals, he doesn't wear them himself for the fear that the chappals will become old. It will wear and tear by use. So he doesn't use chappals to keep them new. And then the writer notices that this boy is wearing shoes that do not match. He is wearing different shoes. He is wearing shoes of two different pairs. So the writer comments on that, and the boy feels embarrassed and he shuffles his feet and says nothing. There is another boy, the third boy. He is bit honest, you can say, and he accepts that he doesn't have shoes and he wants to own a pair of shoes. So the writer, she is a social worker. She has traveled across the length and breadth of the country and she has seen many people walking barefoot in cities as well as in villages. And when she asks them why they are not wearing chappals or shoes, they say it is not lack of money, that we are not poor, we can afford chappals, but it is our tradition to stay barefoot. But the writer is not a fool. She understands that they are just giving an excuse to hide their perpetual state of poverty. Perpetual means permanent, that stays, that continues over a period of time. So their forefathers were poor, they are also poor, and maybe their further generations will be poor. So these people, they do not want to tell to the writer that they are poor and they are not able to afford chappals. They simply give an excuse that it is in our tradition not to wear chappals. We are just following our tradition. So now let's look at this paragraph. I remember a story a man from UDP once told me. As a young boy, he would go to school past an old temple where his father was a priest. He would stop briefly at the temple and pray for a pair of shoes. 30 years later, I visited the town and the temple, which was now drowned in an air of desolation. In the backyard where lived the new priest, there were red and white plastic chairs. A young boy dressed in a grey uniform, wearing socks and shoes, arrived panting and threw his school bag on a folding bed. Looking at the boy, I remembered the prayer another boy had made to the goddess when he had finally got a pair of shoes. Let me never lose them. The goddess had granted his prayer. Young boys like the son of the priest now wore shoes, but many others, like the rag pickers in my neighborhood, remained shoeless. So, here the writer talks about the progress made by other people except the rag pickers. So, here she tells us that once a man from UDP told her a story. And that man from UDP told his own story of his own childhood. He was the son of a priest, and the priest was quite poor. And whenever this child would pass the temple while going to school, he would pray to the goddess that please get me a pair of shoes, get me a pair of shoes. So, after some time, that child finally got a pair of shoes. So now, whenever he was passing across the temple, he was praying to the goddess that may I never lose these shoes. So, shoes were hard to get in those days for the son of a priest. But 30 years later, the writer herself went to that village and she found that the new priest who lives there, he was living a comfortable life. His son was going to school, the son was wearing a grey uniform, he was wearing socks and shoes, there was a folding bed in the house now. So the writer says that the condition, the standard of living for the priest has improved in the past 30 years. But uh, the life of the rag pickers is the same today also. 30 years back also they were very poor, they were shoeless, and today also they are shoeless. So what is the significance of the story? The writer wants to say that people in other walks of life, they have improved, their standard of living has improved, but there is no change in the economic status of the poor rag pickers. They were poor in the past and they are still poor. Now, in the next paragraph, the writer talks about Simapuri. This is the place where Sahib and other people who have migrated from Dhaka live, and they all have the same profession of rag picking. So let's read it. My acquaintance with the barefoot rag pickers leads me to Simapuri, a place on the periphery of Delhi, yet miles away from it metaphorically. Those who live here are squatters who came from Bangladesh back in 1971. So the writer says that I became so familiar with these poor rag pickers that I became curious to know about their dwelling place. So that led me to Simapuri. So Simapuri is a place that is on the periphery of Delhi, yet miles away from it. So what does that mean? Oh. So the writer says that this place, Simapuri, this is very close to Delhi. It is on the periphery. Periphery means boundary, border. So Simapuri is situated very close to Delhi. It is at the outskirts of Delhi, yet miles away from it. Still, it is away from it. So here the writer wants to say that though distance wise, if you see, it is very close, but if you compare the standard of living of the people in Delhi and of those of the people who live in Simapuri, then there is a lot of difference. So these people, in that way, metaphorically, they live miles away from the people of Delhi. So people of Delhi, they are enjoying basic amenities of life, and many rich people live there. So there is it is a metropolitan city, and all kind of amenities and facilities are available there, but here in Simapuri nothing like that is there. So these people, they migrated from Bangladesh to Simapuri in 1971, but still today also they are called squatters. Squatters means somebody who has migrated from other place, migrants who have not received the status of being the citizen of that country. So these people are still considered Bangladeshis, and they are not given the status of Indians, and they are still considered foreigners. Sahib's family is among them. Simapuri was then a wilderness. It still is, but it is no longer empty. So the writer says that back in 1971, many families, including the family of Sahib, migrated to this place. At that time, it was a wilderness. It was a barren place. It was not a place where people were living earlier, and it was not a place where the basic needs of people was met. It was a barren land, and today also it's a barren land. The only difference is that these poor people, they have started living here in structures of mud with roofs of tin and tarpaulin. There is no sewage, no drainage, no running water, and these people, they are 10,000 in number. So such a big number, such a big population, but the basic facilities of sewage, drainage, running water, that is not provided to them. And they have lived here for more than 30 years and still they don't have any identity, an identity of being an Indian. So they do not have even permits, but they have ration cards. Because these shrewd politicians wanted votes from them, so somehow they got them ration cards so that their names appear on voters list. And these people also are happy with this bargain. They want ration cards more than any identity. Food is more important for survival than an identity. So these people, they are not given the status of an Indian, but they are provided with ration cards by the shrewd politicians. And these people are also okay with the settlement because ration cards provide them with food, grains at cheaper cost. So they are okay with it. They want food more than an identity. If at the end of the day we can feed our families and go to bed without an aching stomach, we would rather live here than in the fields that gave us no grain. Say a group of women in tattered saris when I asked them why they left their beautiful land of green fields and rivers. So the author interacted with few women of Simapuri also, and one of them told the writer that if at the end of the day we are able to get food and we don't sleep with an empty stomach, we would prefer to live here than back in Dhaka, because there, though there was beautiful land of green fields and rivers, but that place was not giving them even a handful of grain. They were hungry, they were starving there. So they are happy over here than being in Dhaka. So the writer must have asked them that why you left that place. So these women gave this answer. Wherever they find food, they pitch their tents that become transit homes. Children grow up in them, becoming partners in survival, and survival in Simapuri means rag picking. Through the years, it has acquired the proportions of a fine art. Garbage to them is gold. It is their daily bread, a roof over their heads, even if it is a leaking roof. But for a child, it is even more. So wherever these people find food, they pitch up their tents there, and these tents become their transit homes. Transit means temporary homes. They live in tents. And children grow in these tents, and when they grow up a bit, they also become partners in survival. They also start the same profession of rag picking as the adults do, and that's how they are surviving. Survival in Simapuri means rag picking. The only profession that these 10,000 people know is that of rag picking. And over the years, it has actually acquired the status of a fine art. According to these rag pickers, it is an art to pick rags from the garbage dumps. Garbage to them is gold. This line is important. Garbage to them is gold means garbage is very much precious to them. It is their daily bread, a roof over their heads. Because of this garbage, they get their daily bread. They get food every day. And it is because of the garbage they have a roof over their head. And even if this roof is a bit leaking one, they don't mind it. And for them, garbage holds a lot of importance. It is their way of earning. And for a child, it is even more. Garbage is even more important for a child. Now here you will find why it is more important for children. The garbage is more important for children. I sometimes find a rupee, even a 10 rupee note, Sahib says, his eyes lighting up. When you can find a silver coin in a heap of garbage, you can't stop scrounging, for there is hope of finding more. It seems that for children, garbage has a meaning different from what it means to their parents. For the children, it is wrapped in wonder. For the elders, it is a means of survival. So this is another important question from first part of the chapter, that what is the meaning of garbage for the adults and for the children. So for the adults, it is only a means of survival, it is a means of earning their bread. But for children, it is full of surprises. Sometimes, while picking rags, they find a 10 rupee note there in the garbage, and that makes them very happy, and they feel they will find more and more of such rupee notes over there. So they search with more vigor and interest. Scrounging means searching, digging something uh, to search. So these children, they become very enthusiastic whenever they find a 10 rupee note. Sometimes they even find a silver coin. So when they find one coin, they don't stop over there, because that makes them hopeful that they'll get more and more. So they keep on scrounging more and more. They start digging deep and deep into the garbage. So, for adults, garbage means a means of survival, and for the children, it is wrapped up in wonder, it is full of surprise. I hope you'll be able to write this answer on your own now. Now, let's move on. One winter morning, I see Sahib standing by the fenced gate of the neighborhood club, watching two young men dressed in white playing tennis. I like the game, he hums, content to watch it standing behind the fence. I go inside when no one is around, he admits. The gatekeeper lets me use the swing. Sahib too is wearing tennis shoes that look strange over his discolored shirt and shorts. Someone gave them to me, he says in the manner of an explanation. The fact that they are discarded shoes of some rich boy who perhaps refused to wear them because of a hole in one of them does not bother him. For one who has walked barefoot, even shoes with a hole is a dream come true. But the game he is watching so intently is out of his reach. So one winter morning, the writer finds Sahib standing by the fenced gate of the neighborhood club. So inside, two young men were playing tennis. They were wearing the proper uniform of tennis. They were wearing white dress, and they had all the equipments that were required to play this game. And Sahib was standing at the gate, and he was watching the game right from there. He wasn't entering inside. And the writer approaches him, and then he tells the writer that I go inside when there is nobody around. The gatekeeper is very nice fellow, and he lets him use the swing when there is nobody else there. And the writer notices that Sahib too is wearing tennis shoes, and he finds them looking quite strange over the faded shirt and shorts that he was wearing. So, in a manner of explaining that I haven't done any kind of theft, somebody has given these shoes to me. He says that somebody gave them to me. And these are the shoes, the discarded shoes of some rich boy who refused to wear them because of a hole in one of them. So a rich boy discarded these shoes because one of the shoes had a hole in them, but Sahib is wearing these shoes. The hole doesn't matter to him, because for him, because he never had any pair of shoes earlier, so for him to have a shoes with a hole in it is also a dream come true. It's a big achievement for him that he got this pair of shoes from somewhere. He was happy to have them. But the writer feels that though he was able to get a pair of tennis shoes, but he won't be able to play this game. The game that he was watching with so much interest, he won't be able to play this game because he doesn't have the equipments required to play this game. He's very poor to afford to play this game. So here we see that Sahib is interested in going to school. Sahib is interested in the game tennis, but both the things are out of his reach. He's neither able to go to school nor he's able to play the tennis game. Now let's look at the last paragraph of the first part of the story. This morning Sahib is on his way to the milk booth. In his hand is a steel canister. I now work in a tea stall down the road, he says, pointing in the distance. I am paid 800 rupees and all my meals. Does he like the job? I ask. His face, I see, has lost the carefree look. The steel canister seems heavier than the plastic bag he would carry so lightly over his shoulder. The bag was his, the canister belongs to the man who owns the tea shop. Sahib is no longer his own master. So, in the last paragraph, we read that Sahib has changed his profession. He is now working at a tea stall, and he has to go to a milk booth every day to fetch milk in a steel canister. And here he is paid 800 rupees and all the meals in a day. But the writer finds that he is not happy here. He has lost his carefree look. And why is he not happy over here? The writer says that though he is earning more over here, but he is not happy here. There are few reasons. Reason number one: the steel canister that he has to carry here is lot heavier than the plastic bag he used to carry for rag picking. And then second thing is that there he was his own master. He was able to take rest whenever he wanted. He would work whenever he wanted. He would take rest whenever he wanted. But here he has to listen to the owner of the tea stall. He has to listen to his master. So he has lost his freedom. So these are the reasons that he is not happy working in the tea stall. This is the most important question from this part of the chapter. Is Sahib happy working at the tea stall? No, Sahib is not happy working at the tea stall. 1. He has to carry a heavy steel canister. 2. He has to obey his master all the time. 3. He has lost his freedom. So this is first part of the story. I hope you must have understood it. Thank you.